It's the second season of the Magical Mommy Monday podcast. Jen and Angela are two moms raised on Disney magic, figuring out parenthood one day, one milestone, and sometimes one meltdown at a time. Thanks for listening and enjoy this week's new episode.
Do we even have a pre-show today?
I don't know. I don't think so. I think we covered our pre-show in our chat where we're like, we don't have much time today. We need to just record.
No, and we don't have a lot of time today because I am at my in-laws and dinner is being prepared currently. If you're wondering what it was or what it is, I'm pretty sure it's a chicken parmesan with spaghetti.
Yeah.
Sounds amazing.
I love it.
I think it's Ina Garten's recipe too. So I know it's going to be just killer. It's going to be so good.
Fancy. Yeah. We need to wrap this up so you can go eat.
I know. I did want to mention, just because we're all about our TV shows, I did. So I Schitt's Creek is over now for me. I finished it. Mm-hmm. So I finally found a new show to watch.
Okay.
And by new, I mean ER. So I'm pretty sure that I'll be on that for the next 2 years since there's 15 or 16 seasons. Yeah. But YouTube does this thing in the algorithm where it just, shows you little videos and it entices you with the thumbnails and, the description. And it keeps showing me ER little blips, little 2 to 5 minute ER things. So it just keeps bringing me in slower and slower. And I keep watching them, keep clicking that and the Kelly Clarkson, Kellyokies from her show.
Oh, yes.
Those are the two things that they always get me with. And now I noticed that it's on Hulu. And so that's what I started when I was up at 5:30 this morning.
I need to get in a show. I mean, Schitt's Creek for me, I'm on third round, but almost done with the third round. But the third round went much slower because it became just the filler. Oh, I don't know. There's nothing really on. I don't want to get into something new. Let's just put this on.
Turn it on.
So it's just always there now as this nice little comfort. But I probably do need another show. I am behind on current shows like This Is Us and Zoe's Extraordinary Playlist just for this week. Mm-hmm. And then you need to watch Framing Britney Spears on Hulu.
Mm-hmm. I have to do that.
Frank and I basically did an entire episode of Theme Park Thursday on it.
You did?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I am so excited to listen to it.
Yeah.
It just came out today, correct?
What, the documentary?
The Theme Park Thursday.
Oh, the Theme Park Thursday,
which really is last Thursday if you're listening
but we're
to
recording
it
on Theme Park Thursday. Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
So if you have not listened to that and you're a big fan of the Holy Spirit, I would go listen to their podcast all about reframing Britney. But I mean, I don't want to rehash what you already talked about. But I'm putting off watching that because the whole thing I've been following for the Free Britney movement for a while. Yeah. And it just makes me so sad that I can't get into the mindset to watch.
I know. It's not easy. You will be sad. I more than sad was disgusted by the people in her life. So there's that, but I think you need to watch. You have to.
I will, along with The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel, completely opposite ends of the spectrum.
Yeah.
But it's just another one that you keep telling me about and I keep not watching.
Yes, because they're filming another season, so you got to get ready.
Behind. Maybe I'll just do what I did with Schitt's Creek and wait till they end it and then I'll start watching.
Just do the whole thing.
Now I don't have to wait.
Yeah.
Where now Grey's Anatomy pushed back their season re-premiere, their mid-season break. They pushed it back a week. So I think March, second week of March, maybe it's going to come back. So I'm just kind of waiting around for that to start. Anyway, welcome to the Magical Mommy Monday podcast. I can't talk. All I can smell is Parmesan chicken.
Deliciousness.
So good.
Yeah.
I'm Angela Dahlgren here with my co-host Jen Snyder.
Hello.
Last week, we talked all about having an attitude of gratitude.
Yes.
That was a fun one.
It was a fun one. It was just us chatting it up, trying to put things into perspective, keep it real,
We
also talk about how hard it is to cut things into perspective. Yes, we did talk about cheese and pretzels. So there was that. Yeah.
Yes. I did finish that block of Parmesan to the point where I ate so much of it. It like gave me a sore on my lip because I think it was like a little too acidic to have all of that in one sitting. So word to the wise, just like pace yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. Just one bite at a time.
Exactly. And preferably maybe on crackers. This week, we are talking about our road to motherhood. It's I say conception, and that sounds completely different than what we're going to talk about, but our road to conception, birth story, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was kind of a journey for both of us. So that's what we're going to cover.
Yeah.
Let's get into it.
Do it. So when did you know you wanted to be a mom?
I feel like I'm on an interview for like babysitting.
Exactly.
Well, I have always wanted to be a mom. My first niece or nephew, it was a niece in this case, was born when I was 16, and she was with us a lot. So I was exposed to extended time with babies very young, and the caregiving aspect very young. I mean, I had like little cousins, but she was with us a good amount. And then from there, my brothers only had more children. There's like 15 grandchildren, if that gives you any idea of just how many grandchildren. Just a little gaggle of them. But I've always known I've wanted to be a mom. I was always waiting for my turn to be a mom. So excited. I remember at one point, I like cried to my mom. I don't know why. I don't even think I had like a boyfriend or anything. And I'm like, I just really want to be a mom.
Yeah.
And I remember she said to me, and this is the woman who like her life purpose is to be a mother. She's like, well, Angela, that's great. But like, life is not just being a mom. Like you can have a great career and be like she like gave me the whole, like, you don't need children to be happy thing. And I'm like, wow, okay, good for you. I'm like, yeah, go Terry. But anyway, I got married when I was 22. So right out of college, I was one of those. I was like, okay, I'm done with school in June, July wedding. Let's go. And then we were married. I don't know what. I think I got pregnant and had my baby when I was 24. Spoiler. So we were married about a year, and then we're like, hey, you want to knock out some kids? And he's like, yeah, all right, sure. Why not? Like, like, you know, like for us, I kind of feel like we got to this point where we're like I don't want to say we were bored, but like every day kind of felt the same. And we're like, it's just the two of us. Like we're ready. It's just, it was a time, it's a feeling you can't really explain. You're just kind of, we were ready. Yeah. And people say like, when's the best time to have kids? There's no good time. I don't know. I just kind of felt like, yeah, let's do this. Yeah. So we were trying, and it just like was not happening. And we tried and tried, and it was not going well. And it was like a year of trying, and I could not get pregnant. And so, and I wasn't getting a period either. And I'd stopped, I was on birth control for several years, and I had stopped the pill, wasn't getting a period in like a year. So I went to the doctor, and they're like, yeah, you have amenorrhea, which is no period. They're like, let's do an ultrasound to figure stuff out. And so I had the inside and outside ultrasound, and they're like, yeah, you have cysts on your ovaries. You have polycystic ovarian syndrome. So that means that you're probably going to have a tough time getting pregnant. You're probably going to need interventions to get pregnant. Wow. And the doctor called and told me this in a much nicer way than I'm sharing it now. But she told me this when I was like in the lobby of an Olive Garden. I remember it so clearly, and I was completely crushed. Like all I wanted was it for like, I had loved caring for my nieces and nephews. They were like the light of my lives, but it was my turn, you know? I'm like, I just want my own little baby. And I was crushed to hear that it might not be possible. It was just a horrible, horrible feeling. So I got really upset about it, you know, as one would. And then talked about it with Michael, and we're like, okay, well, if that's the way it's going to be, let's just travel for the next couple years and let's not worry about it. Yeah. And in 2 or 3 years from now, we'll start doing what we need to do to have a baby. And then literally the next month I got pregnant.
Right.
I don't know how it happened. I don't know if it was like you're so stressed, you're so anxious about it that it's not working. And I was just like, I don't care anymore. But the next month I did. And it truly felt like a miracle. And then I guess I'll get into the birth story after I hear kind of your journey to getting pregnant.
Sure. So yeah, I'm the same way that I always wanted to be a mom. I think I may have said before that I didn't have imaginary friends as a kid. I had imaginary kids as a kid, like teaching them how to ride my bike, things like that. Had names for them, which I believe were the same names as the kids on Days of Our Lives, because my mom was always watching Days of Our Lives. So naturally.
Makes sense, yeah.
I also thought like, I'm going to get married. My parents got married when they were 20. So I always had in my head, like, I'm going to get married young. I'm going to have babies young. I'm going to have 3 kids by the time I'm 30. Life doesn't go that way, which is fine. And so some twists and turns. And when my husband and I got married, when I was 29 weeks away from 30, we weren't like, yeah, let's get married, let's have kids. But we knew like we didn't want to wait like years either. So I think like a year in, we were like, okay, let's do this. But of course, started like many people do, where it's like, let's just see what happens. And then the first month it doesn't happen. And I'm like, okay, well, now we're trying. Because why
now I'm taking my temperature.
Exactly. It's like, I spent so many years on birth control, still terrified I would get pregnant at some point. And now it's like, what do you mean it didn't just happen right away?
I know. Yeah. All that time you're like, oh my gosh, I think I'm pregnant. And then you're like, I'm so stupid.
Yeah.
All those years worrying only to see just how hard it is.
Yeah. Ridiculous. Yeah. I think I don't know when I started taking my temperature, but that happened as well. Ovulation test came in at some point as well, because it was taking a while. And of course I'm Googling and reading all about it, and just, it's amazing like how much you don't know about like how pregnancy works and how your own body works and all these things until you start like trying to have babies and going, wait, what? You're like,
I thought this just worked one way.
Crazy. So, so then probably, I want to say 7 months-ish later, I got pregnant and was like, oh my God, I can't believe it. Oh my God, I'm so excited. And ended up like telling my parents pretty much right away. And I think my brother and sister-in-law right away too, only to then a few days later have a miscarriage, which, because it was so early, it was a chemical pregnancy, they refer to it, because it's like still so early that it's within that time frame. Like you probably wouldn't have even noticed much, but it like destroyed me. And like we were talking about last week, it's all relative, could be worse. People go through such hardships and many miscarriages and late term, and just so many things happen to people. So I am in no way trying to like compare myself to someone else or,
I mean,
but
it's a loss of a child is still devastating no matter how it happens. Yeah.
Like I'm like, I don't want to talk about it. Whenever I start, like, I remember going to my mom's and I'm like, make sure no one talks about it. I don't want to talk about it. Like I was so on edge, wanting to cry all the time. And it, from that point, I then was like, I don't think I can ever be excited with a positive pregnancy test, like whenever it happens, which I think about 2 or 3 months later, because I had gone to the doctor, they were seeing my blood work and seeing the numbers come down and all that. So once I start getting cleared to try again, it was probably 2 or 3 months later that I did get pregnant with the now 6-year-old. But I didn't have that same excitement. It was like, okay, so I guess we'll see. And it's like that awkward, like, well, this sucks. Like, I want to be excited, but I don't want to get too excited.
Is this good?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I remember, like, I waited then like 8 or 10 weeks maybe. And I told my parents and my brother and sister-in-law again. And I was like, so I'm pregnant. And they were like, okay. I'm like, I've seen the heartbeat. And I remember my dad just being like, you saw the heartbeat? I was like, yeah. He's like, all right. Like, just like, it was like almost reassured them, like, huh, all right.
They're like gauging your reaction.
Yeah,
They're like, can we be excited?
Yeah. Like, I was like, so everything's looking okay so far. So that was baby number 1 for me for that. Yeah.
No, I can definitely see. I mean, if I had gone through that, I don't think I could have been excited throughout the entire thing.
Mm-hmm.
I'd be waiting for the other shoe to drop the whole time.
Exactly. Because it's like, miscarriages can happen and all these things can happen. But then once something like that happens, it's like, oh, right, keep yourself in check. Like this is real. And, who knows what can happen then throughout pregnancy. And there's so many ups and downs you can go through and all of that. And it kind of just brings the reality to things, I guess.
Well, and people telling you, like, I always wondered, is someone telling you they're so common more or less reassuring? Like, do you feel more or less alone to know that they're so common?
Right. I don't know. I do feel like I don't like the stigma that's attached to it. It's kind of like what we talk about with like mental health. There's such a stigma with everything that if people just talked about it, you would see how common things are and that there are other people out there and there's no shame in it and it's nothing you did. And, but you do feel that as you're going through it, like, oh my God, well, I'm glad I didn't tell too many people. But it's like, well, why? I mean,
but why? I didn't do anything.
Right.
So,
exactly.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a weird thing, I guess.
But you did get pregnant 2 to 3 months later with the now 6-year-old.
Yes.
And did you have a pretty good pregnancy with him, or was it rough?
No, it was pretty good. I was pretty sick the first trimester, and I worked throughout my pregnancy. So I was commuting, 2 hours each way pretty much every day, hating my life. And some of those commutes ended up just me like puking in the car on the way because,
can't do it on the train.
Yeah. So yeah. And that's the thing too, because sometimes I was training. I would like go back and forth between taking a train or driving. And when I was feeling sick, I'm like, I'm going to need to drive because I don't want to be on a train feeling like this or being like stuck somewhere. So I felt pretty good about it. It was kind of hard feeling sick, working in an office. And also I worked for an airline, but I worked on the corporate side of the airline. So, but sometimes I would have to go to the airport to do some stuff. And I remember we were actually filming something because I did a lot of internal communications. I did a lot of training and writing up policies and all that. And I had been with 2 other girls on my team, and we went to the airport to film something. And I was like so nauseous. I kind of felt like I'm going to pass out. I don't know what's going to happen. I was just like, I'm going to go get some water, guys, and I'm going to sit. And one of the other girls there, we had each had a story like a year before we were riding the subway, and I got off at a stop on the subway because I was convinced I was about to pass out and I didn't want to do it on the train. So I got off at a stop just to be like, if I pass out on the train platform, people will see me and like maybe someone will save me. And she had a similar story. So we were eating lunch in the airport, and she said something like, so did you feel like you felt like on the train that day? I was like, oh, no, I'm pregnant. So, and they were like, oh, I was like, no, seriously, I am. And they were like, wait, what? But I think I was like, 11 weeks at that point. So I was like, don't tell anyone. But it's hard in office. We always knew when people were pregnant because if you go to the bathroom, sometimes you hear people getting sick if you're female. And so like, people like, but they're not going home. I think they're pregnant.
But, that's the sucky part. I mean, there's a lot of sucky parts about pregnancy, but that's the sucky part about the beginning is you don't necessarily want to tell someone or tell anyone yet. You feel like crap. And that's the time when it's like all hush, hush. Mm-hmm. But then people are wondering like, oh, why is she sick all the time? Why does she look tired like she has the flu? Mm-hmm. And then you look bloated.
Yeah.
If you don't look pregnant yet, you just look super bloated and like squishy and you feel gross.
Yeah.
It's like the worst part. Well, maybe not the worst part of pregnancy. For me, I had a fine pregnancy with my daughter. I had a horrible pregnancy with my son.
Yeah.
I'm just someone that doesn't really enjoy being pregnant. All those people who are like, I loved being pregnant. It was I'm like, you're lying.
Yeah.
It's not true. I love my kids. They're a blessing. I am so lucky to have them and that I could carry them. But pregnancy sucks.
Yeah.
It just does. Like, let's not tell stories.
I know. I do remember going home sick one day because I think I was just like so tired. I was like, I can't sit at this desk today. I'm going to just fall asleep. And I was like, I got to go home. And I remember someone else on my team coming over. They're like, you don't look good. And to my boss, you got to send her home. And he's like, she's going. She already said she was like, we had a good relationship. He's like, she's leaving. What? And she's like, all right, because I don't want to get it. Not in my head. I'm like, yeah, you won't get it. Don't worry about it. Like,
I'm not going to pass this on to you. I promise.
I'm not going to get this. Don't worry about it.
And then the emotional outbursts. I remember I got severely angry with Michael because I was exhausted. And he was standing there after jujitsu with his shirt off, looking trim and fit as ever. And I was exhausted, growing a human, and he just looked amazing, making a sandwich. And I was just like, this is ridiculous. I'm so tired. And you're just standing there looking amazing. And and then I started crying. But I will say I was better on the meltdowns with Annie. With Jay, it was a lot worse. Much.
How were you with like gaining weight? Because I know that's like, it's such a thing where people are like, oh, you have to be careful not to gain too much. And also working in an office while you're pregnant with your first child. Good God, I knew everyone's birth story. I knew everyone's piece of advice. I could tell you how every child in that office came into the world. I was like, okay, guys, thank you. I get, okay.
I guarantee you my story won't be like yours.
Yeah, exactly. Not everyone's the same.
How was I? So I made a conscious effort to exercise during pregnancy. I don't know. I read that exercising during pregnancy makes the baby's heart more like virile, more strong and whatever. So I think I did the exercise bike, like what's it called? Not the upright one, like the Peloton, but like
the sitting,
I cannot think of what it's called right now. Recumbent bike. Oh. And then once I got too big, then I would just walk on the treadmill. I never did anything too intense because that was the time in my life when I didn't do any kind of intense exercise ever. Yeah. And I'm really happy that I did that because I ended up getting super, super sick during labor. And, I mean, I'm not a doctor, but I like kind of wonder sometimes if maybe the fact that I was in better shape and the baby's heart was stronger contributed to her living. Right. But I will never know that. And I'm not a doctor or scientist. So that's all like assumptions.
Yeah. Yeah. I got you. I didn't really work out during my pregnancy. My cousin is a yoga instructor. So I did do some prenatal yoga with her that she was doing. But if you break it down, it was only like 4 or 8 sessions with her or whatever. And then in like my last month, because I was seeing if maybe I could induce labor a little quicker and a little sooner because I was having a big baby, I was doing a lot more walking towards the end. But yeah.
You're like, get this thing out of me. It's cooked. It's just,
we're good.
We're fine.
Good.
It's
Doctor said if he comes early, that's fine. So let's see.
No, as far as weight, I gained 30 pounds with Annie, and I gained 40 with Jay. But my body it just did what it wanted to do. Like with Jay, first month, gained 10 pounds. It just did. My body was like, you need this now. Yeah. And I started crying. I'm like, oh my God, what is happening?
Yeah.
But it's just what it wanted to do. And both times it came right off. So it's what it needed. And knowing that now, I'm like, oh, okay. But at the time I was completely freaking out.
Yeah. Yeah. I think I gained 40 with my first, and I feel like maybe in the 35 to 40 the second time too, but she was a pound smaller than him. But
yeah, that would make sense on your tiny frame.
Yeah.
You're very small.
I'm little with big babies.
Baby. Yes.
How big were your babies?
Annie was 7'14".
Okay.
I feel bad. I can never remember their stats. Every parent's like, my baby was this and this, and they were this long. I'm like, I don't know. Yeah. Annie was 7'14", and Jay was 8'7".
Okay.
So they were average.
You too. Well, and I think those are big babies.
Are they big babies?
I think so.
How big were your babies?
8'10" and 7'10".
Oh my God. They were big babies.
Yeah. But 8'7" is not far off from 8'10".
But you are very small.
So are you.
You have this itty bitty frame.
But they thought my son was going to be over 9. Oh my
God. How many weeks did you deliver him at?
I had C-sections for both.
Oh, that's right.
And so I never had, we can talk about this, a birth plan. I never had a birth plan. I never had it before I got pregnant. I used to way back, probably when I was a teenager, would be like, whenever I have kids, just knock me out and take the kid out. I don't want to go through the process of having a child.
Joke's on you.
What happened? But I never had a birth plan. I was always like, however this happens, it happens. I want to be healthy. I want the baby to be healthy. I don't care how it all comes about. So when they were thinking he's looking kind of big, but he's looking strong and everything's good, if he did come a little early, if you want to try to deliver him natural, all that kind of stuff. So I was like, oh, let's just see, and I'm eating the spicy food and doing the walking and all of that. But we had scheduled the C-section. I think it was 2 days before his delivery date. So,
and you scheduled the C-section because of your frame. You had tiny hips.
Yeah.
I think you could push him out.
Right. I mean, and yes, I could have tried, but I was like, I don't and the doctors went through everything with me. And honestly, they did not scare me into anything. And they didn't, I never questioned a decision because I didn't have a decision. I weighed out all the options. I really felt like, how is my body? And I know I'm a tiny gal. And I also was like, if there's a shot where I don't have to try something and get into a position where then there's an emergency of some sort, why would I do that?
Well, and I've seen you once in person. You do not have wide hips.
No.
Very narrow hips. That would be very hard to deliver a baby.
Yeah. And what makes me happy, I'm skipping ahead a little bit, but what makes me happy is when he did come out, one of the first things I heard the nurses say was like, whoa, look at those shoulders. I was like, yeah, I made the right decision.
Good call.
And I wasn't even, I kind of liked the whole process of the intensive surgery, of the
abdominal surgery.
Right. I never had a contraction with him. He wasn't even trying to come out. They would try to find him. They would do the checks towards the end. They're like, he's in there. He's in there pretty good. He wasn't even trying to get any lower. He could have stayed in there for quite some time.
And you're like, no, it's your time.
Yeah, no, we're ready now. So when I woke up, I showered, dried my hair. I was like, all right, we're going to go have a baby today. I'm here to check in. Thanks. It was a relaxed thing.
Name is Snyder.
Yeah. Thanks. I think my husband did start to freak out a little bit at that point, knowing, you're about to get cut open. No, we're good. Okay. But for me, I was like, okay, the things I was not looking forward to was knowing I'd have some needles in my back that day and that I'd probably have a catheter. And those are the two things that freaked me out more than anything else.
Is it weird that I loved my catheter? No, I did. Because I peed so much towards the end of my pregnancy. Yeah. And I was so big that I'm like, if I don't have to get up this. Yeah. Rocks it
just the idea of it skeeves me. So I was just like, oh, I don't want to.
I personally think that it must be worse for guys.
Yeah.
It's just, I don't know how it works. But I think I might have asked for a catheter at some point. I'm like, so are we going to do this yet? Like with the second, I'm like, let's go. I don't want to get up anymore. Like I kept having to pee. I'm taking over your story. Anyway.
No,
we'll get there. We'll get to mine.
Whatever. No.
What are the highlights? What do you want to share?
The highlights of the C-section. Well, so I wasn't asleep. I was awake during the whole thing. But they dope you up a little bit. So you're already a little dopey as you're going in, but you walk into the operating room.
That's good. That's weird.
Yeah, it's so weird because, and I had never, knock on wood, had anything happen where I had to be in an operating room before.
So you've never really had surgery?
No.
Oh, that's weird.
And nothing has ever.
That would have freaked me out.
I've never even, again, knock on wood, had to be in the hospital for anything. Like this was the first hospital stay for certain, there was nothing major that I've ever had done.
That would have freaked me out.
Yeah. So walking in there was a little this is a little weird.
And it's cold in there too.
Freezing in there. So
cold.
Oh my God. And so then you have your little nightgown thing on and I just remember, but you're dopey. So you're sitting up on the table and they're like, okay, you want to relax your shoulders, relax your back, all this stuff. And I feel like what do they call that? I guess it's a gown, right? The medical gown.
Patient gown.
So it starts to fall a little bit. So I catch it and the nurse is like, no, you're going to just have to let go of the modesty in here. We're going to see everything. And I'm like, right. Okay. Right.
Yeah,
just
good call.
Right. I forgot what I was about to do. So then they put, multiple needles in your back. And I was just like, mind over matter, mind over matter, mind over matter. Everything's fine. And then they kind of just lay you down because you're about to, go numb from the waist down or whatever it is, stomach down.
I didn't think about that.
I don't even know.
I mean, whenever I had my epidural, I was having contractions.
Yeah.
And that always kind of felt worse than the needle, but you didn't have any of that. So it's just
yep, here you go. And don't feel your legs. Okay.
Ooh, that's weird. Oh, that's weird. Oh, gosh. It's totally different experience than mine.
Yeah. So but as I was going into the operating room, they take my husband into a different room so he gets all scrubbed up. So I was laying down and the doors are basically at my feet, further away, but at my feet. So I remember at this point, I'm very dopey. So I can explain it as I feel like I was watching myself. I am mentally completely there. My face does not match what I'm thinking in my head. I can't combine the two. So I remember him walking and his head was just turned away from me because he knew they had already started on me and he was not expecting that. So when he walked in, he was like, what? He's just looking away until he gets to me. And he was like, hi. I was like, hi. So they're doing everything, but there is also students in the room as well. Yeah. And my doctor's teaching everything and whatever. So they, I didn't really know, but I was really nauseous during it. And I was and then they put a heated blanket thing on you.
It's cold. Yeah.
But then at some point I'm like, I need this off of me. I need it off of me. I'm so nauseous.
Right,
and
get it off.
But so they do what they have to do. Me and my husband will always now, anytime we'll just randomly go pressure because that's what we heard the doctors say as he was, because I really feel like my son was embedded in my pelvic bone for a good amount of time. That's probably where his head was. So they I did feel it didn't hurt at all, but I did feel a little pressure or whatever as they take him out. And then they brought him right over. So, we're hearing him and everything. And then my husband gets him and brings him over and he's like, your face was just so what is this? Meanwhile, in my head, I'm like, oh my God, that's my baby. I'm so happy and so excited in my head. I can't believe I'm looking at him, but I look at him and then I turned away again and I'm like, I think I'm going to get sick. And then I ended up and then my husband's like, she's saying she's going to get sick. They're like, okay. And they give me the little gross hospital pail. And now I'm still on the table. Organs are out of my body. Not just throwing up. There should be a trigger warning with this episode.
Yeah, we should probably do that.
On the side, because you can't, it's the most awkward thing.
And your husband's like, look,
ever.
baby. And
yeah.
you're like, it makes me want to puke.
Yeah. So yeah, and then he goes off with him and they go into like the recovery room and, once I'm done, I can go. But yeah, wow. That's how the first one came into the world.
Oh my gosh. That is like so intense. I should apologize to my mom. She had to go through that with me.
Yeah. But I like, honestly, even the aftermath of it, I mean, when I got home and stuff, I was super like puffy and swollen. Like I felt like there's all the water retention that I've been holding in. But after like a few days, you then start to try to do stuff and you go, oh, wait, I can't do things even
your abs
though
are
I
gone.
think I feel okay. I'm not. Yeah. But like, I've heard horror stories of people having C-sections and just feeling horrible and really unable to do stuff. And I feel lucky that I did not have that experience either time. Like I never felt so horrible or in so much pain. Like I took Tylenol and Motrin.
Oh, wow.
Never took anything stronger than that. Like even in the hospital, that's what I was taking. So like I feel lucky in that way.
I mean, I didn't even have my stomach cut open. And I just remember trying to get out of bed like the normal way. And I was like, oh, these don't work anymore.
Yes.
My abs are broken.
Yeah.
They spread apart and I need to figure a different way to get out of bed.
Did you have a pillow for when you sneeze so that you could put the pillow over your stomach? They gave me that.
No.
So were you in labor for a long time?
Yeah, I'm just like, my story's a lot different than hers.
These are how babies come into the world in all different ways.
I hope we're not scaring you guis into not giving birth. It's such a miracle. So with my daughter, my first, let's see, how many days after Thanksgiving was she born? I think she was born 2 days after Thanksgiving. And I did not sleep well the night of Thanksgiving. Like I would wake up and it was Thanksgiving. I did not sleep well. Like I did not feel good. I can't really explain it. It's like I was having contractions, but mixed with just not feeling well. Like I wasn't hungry. I felt like I was having really like intense Braxton Hicks but like I didn't feel good. And I remember like I'd been so excited for Thanksgiving the entire pregnancy because I'm like, this is like going to be my last big hurrah before I have a baby. I'm going to eat so much mashed potatoes. Like I was so excited. And then I was pissed because I didn't feel hungry. I didn't feel good.
Yeah.
So I couldn't really eat anything. And I remember my mom's like, you look really tan. And I looked at her. I'm like, Mom, it's November in Minnesota. Where the F would I have gotten a tan?
Yeah.
And I said, I don't know why. She's like, no, you look really tan. That will be relevant later. So I went to bed that night, continued to not feel good, not sleeping well. I had a doctor's appointment the next day and I kind of was telling her this and I'm like, I'm just like having these kind of contractions, but I don't know what they are. And she kind of checked things out and she's like, well, you're not very far along, but go walk around for an hour and go have some juice. And I think she said like a Cinnabon. I'm like, okay.
Twist my arm.
I know. Gosh, I have to have a Cinnabon. Well, the doctor suggested it. So we walked around and she's like, you come back later in the afternoon. And if you're still feeling this way, I know someone who's on call tonight and I'm going to tell her you're coming in. So I go in and I still haven't progressed, but she's like, yeah, if you still don't feel good, go in. So like all that day still didn't feel well. And finally my mom's like, something's not right. This is like probably 8 p.m. She's like, something is not right. Michael and my dad were like at a bar with my brother having a drink. And she calls them and she's like, if you guys are not home in 30 minutes or something less. No, they were like 10 minutes late. She's like, if you guys are not home in 20 minutes, we're going to the hospital without you. Something's not right. We need to bring her in. They're like, oh, okay. So I kind of just already had my stuff packed. So we went to the hospital and as it turns out, I had preeclampsia, which turned into HELP syndrome. That's like what happens when preeclampsia gets really, really bad. And my platelets were really low, and you kind of need those, or else I think you can bleed out. Like I think they help you clot. I don't actually know, but anyway, But in addition to having HELLP syndrome, I also had something called cholestasis. And I had suspected that I had that. I was really, really itchy during my pregnancy. Like, you know, sometimes your stomach gets itchy or like your boobs or whatever. No, like this was an unbelievably itch, and it was on my hands too. Like my hands would not stop itching, like my palms. And I was using coconut oil and everything, and nothing would stop the itchiness. I changed my detergent, and I told my other doctor, like I had like a primary OB, and she's like, no, you're probably fine. And I'd seen a different doctor the day before or whatever. Should have clarified. As it turns out, the reason I was so tan was because my liver was failing.
Oh my God.
The cholestasis. And if you have cholestasis, you have to deliver the baby at 37 weeks, or else there's a very high chance of like fetal mortality.
Oh my God.
So that's why I'm like, well, maybe because I walked on my treadmill, Annie survived.
Right. Oh my God.
So it was kind of this perfect storm where I couldn't get an epidural because my platelets were too low. They couldn't do a C-section because they didn't want me to bleed out.
Right.
So I just kind of had to like sit there.
Oh my God.
So I basically had been laboring for like 2 days.
Yeah.
And I still don't really feel good. But they gave me Pitocin to try to speed things along, kind of get me all open up and ready. And they keep taking my okay, this is, oh my God, he would die if I shared this. I'm going to do it. So Michael would go and have like a nervous trip to the bathroom. And every time he would come back, there would be like 7 doctors in the room with really serious faces.
Oh my God.
Every time. And this happened like 2 or 3 times where he'd have his nervous bathroom break and he'd come in and there'd be like more bad news.
Oh my God.
I felt really bad for it, but it's actually really funny. So anyway, they couldn't give me the epidural. Then they gave me Pitocin, and then my water, they broke my water. And so like I'm in a lot of pain without any epidural. So anyway, they did my labs. My dad knew the anesthesiologist and talked to him. And the guy like went and like, I think looked over like the lab tech's shoulder to see if I could get an epidural. Like if my platelets were just high enough.
Right.
And it turned out that I could. And I got an epidural and I was finally like ready to sleep. I was way too weak to push. So they're like, okay, we'll let her sleep a little bit, but not too long.
Yeah.
She has to get the baby out. And I just remember we're like, it's my mom, my dad, Michael, and I in the room. And we're like, I had been on fentanyl at one point. So I like really wanted the Weather Channel on and I started talking about bears. I don't know. It's like, this whole experience was very trippy. But we're all like kind of settling in to get some sleep. And all of a sudden you hear, my dad had decided to bring Jimmy John's, like a sandwich into the room. And at that exact night, when I'd been laboring for like 2.5 days at that point and finally gotten an epidural, he's like, this sounds like a great time with all the lights off to open a sandwich and start eating it. So he's like doing it. He's trying to be as quiet as possible, but it's like a Subway type wrapper, right?
Yeah.
And my mom's like, Tom, could you be a little quieter? And he's like, oh, is that too loud? So he's trying to do it slower, but that just prolongs the unwrapping. And finally, Michael's like, Tom. It's like, okay, I'll go outside. Anyway, I ended up pushing out my little hugga-mugga. I think it took about 30 to 45 minutes, but I'd say about half of that pushing was me trying to figure out how to push and being too tired and too weak to push. Cause I think they gave me magnesium so that I wouldn't seizure.
Okay.
Have seizures.
Yeah.
So I had a migraine. It was kind of like a cluster F, honestly. I was in the hospital for 5 days. It was not good.
Yeah.
But she came out and she was really, really white.
Yeah.
Her Apgar wasn't great, but they put her on my chest and she pinked up and then she was fine. I had there was like 9 people in the room. There was a huge team. It was legit.
And you were good?
Eventually. Yeah. They had to keep doing blood tests and checking me. I looked like crap. I should show you a picture. I look totally like crap. But then, yeah, as far as having Jay, like I basically like got up at 4, was like, oh, this is it. Went to the shower, braided my hair, woke up Michael and was like, I'm going to have the baby. So if you want to go shower, now's the time. I went to the hospital. I watched a movie. My water broke there. I got my epidural, pushed him out in 6 pushes, and then ate Chipotle.
Oh my goodness. What a different experience.
It was a banner day.
Yeah. And how long did you have a hard time conceiving him since you did the first time?
He was literally the first try.
Okay.
I was like, Michael, we need to start now.
Yeah.
Because it's going to take a long time to get pregnant with him. No, he was the first try.
First try.
Yeah.
That's so funny.
What about your daughter?
She took longer. So that was fun. And I also had a chemical pregnancy before her. Oh, so gosh. I had one, I forget how long. Hold on. Let me try to figure this out. I think I had one about 5 or 6 months in. But then I was like, oh, well, maybe in another 2 months, I'm going to get pregnant again. No. Yeah. So it took another, I think all in all, that was like 11 months of trying with her. Oh, wow. But yeah. And then I was not as sick with her, but I did have like way more anxiety and like was just way more emotional. And I was like, oh, it's a girl. But in the very beginning when I went, they said that there was a blood clot, almost like she didn't fully attach at first. So they were like, so it'll probably be fine and the blood clot will just get reabsorbed back in. Or it could end up in miscarriage. I was like, cool. So now I just wait this out until when? And so like literally every appointment I was like, are we good? Everything okay? What happened to that blood clot? It's gone?
Baby?
Okay.
We're good?
Yeah. So that was fun. And then because I had a C-section once, I was just like, well, let's plan another C-section again. If she comes early, whatever.
Right.
But like the doctor's office had changed in the 2 years in between. So like I just didn't love the other rotating doctors. Like I love the one that did my C-section but like the other ones were just not as good as the ones I had seen previously and all that. And it just like took longer to try to like get their ducks in a row and all that kind of stuff. So I had one scheduled. She was due January 13th. I had one scheduled for January 9th, which is when she was born. But before Christmas, one day I was like watching TV and I feel my stomach like cramping and I'm like, ugh, I eat something? And that's weird.
You ate a baby.
And then I like move. And then like a few minutes go by and it like happens again. And I'm like, that's so weird. Literally not thinking this could be a contraction because I had never had a contraction before because I never had them at first.
Right.
So I was like, and then I'm like looking at my stomach and it's literally contracting. Like my stomach muscles are tightening for a little bit. Then they release and I'm like,
so wild.
I'm going to Google contractions. What are they like? I just literally like not even plus it had been like 2 or 3 weeks before her due date and all this. So I was like, maybe I should pay attention. And it like lasted all day and like kept going. And I was like, well, maybe we go in and just get checked. And we brought my son to my parents' house because my hospital was only like 10 minutes from their house. So we bring him over there. We go in and I was like 1 centimeter at that point. And they were like, I mean, they're contractions, but they're really inconsistent. By that point, they were like really spread out. So she was like, if they start back up again, but when I walked in there, I told them, I was like, I'm having contractions. They were like, you look too good. You're not having a baby yet. I was like, okay.
Oh.
Can I just see a doctor?
You're like, don't judge me.
What if I'm just really peppy? God.
What if I just did my hair and makeup?
Seriously. So that wasn't the time. And I ended up, I don't think I had contractions again. It was like that one day and I didn't have them again. And then I went in for the C-section on the 9th. And she was even earlier in the morning. So that was weird. Like I remember my doctor calling the nurse's station to make sure I showed up. I was like, yeah, I'm here.
You're like,
is he coming in or
with me?
Want coffee first or okay.
Should I bring donuts for the floor? Or?
Yeah, but I was definitely more nervous that time just now because I had my son and I'm like, oh my God, I'm having surgery and I have a son. So I was more nervous on the walk to the operating room and all that kind of stuff. And I think I was I told them, I was like, I got sick last time. They're like, okay, we'll give you some anti-nausea medication. No, I puked before I had the baby this time. So that's great. I was like, that worked really well, guys. Still on.
Good job.
Still puking into the little pink bowl on the side of the table here. I'm just, no.
Thanks for holding on to that for me.
Yeah. So it's like one of those things where like I'm really shaky after too, because I think of the meds, the drugs and all that.
Did they give you an epidural?
Yes.
Epidurals make you shake.
Yeah. So the second time, like the first time I was like, I can't hold him yet. I feel too shaky. But the second time, like I had her right away and all that kind of stuff. But I do remember like that whole day just feeling like kind of sicker and like more just off, but still overall not that bad. But yeah, those were the two stories for our 4 kiddos coming into the world.
Oh my gosh. And now we are with them all the time.
And now when they should all be in school, they're all home.
I do, like, I'm having a hard time with that though. I keep bringing it up, maybe too much. Like, what am I going to do? They're going to go back to school.
I know.
And here I'm like telling Jen how I was so burnt out yesterday. And in the same breath, I'm like, but they're both going to go to school. Like my son's going to be in kindergarten. My daughter's going to go to school too. She already went to school at one point, so I'm used to that. But like, what am I going to do with myself?
Yeah.
My life has been taking care of them.
Yep.
For a year.
I thought this year I was only going to put my daughter in 2 days for 2 hours or whatever. But I was like, oh my God, what am I going to do for those 4 hours a week? I haven't had that in 6 years.
I know.
It's so crazy. But you never know what'll happen. So I'm not even going to try to pretend to plan or get.
Just when I think that I'm like, things are going well, I know what to expect, something changes.
Yep.
Usually for the better, I will say that, because we're reframing.
Yeah.
But I just don't know what to expect ever.
I know. I think that's how we got to do it now. I think if COVID has taught us anything. Yeah.
Just go with the flow. But yes, that is our story, our journey from conception to babies.
Yes.
If you have any questions, I don't know if you do, I guess.
Want to share your experiences?
Yeah. And if you want to share your experiences, you can email us. You can find us on Twitter or Facebook or Instagram. Jen is amazing at posting to all of those. This is the week that I'm off because, I only post like half the time. Next week, I should be right on track. But yes, if you have any info or episode ideas for us, let us know. Yeah. And I hope you're having a great day, night, whatever you're doing. And we'll talk to you next time. Bye.
Bye. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Magical Mommy Monday podcast. You can find us on Instagram and Facebook at Magical Mommy Monday, on Twitter at Magic Mom Monday, or you can email us at magicalmommymondays@gmail.com. The music you heard on this episode was produced by Matt Harvey. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you next time.